The grand war chamber of Valtoria Prime stretched across 300 meters of polished black stone. Holographic displays showed the conquest map of the Valtorian Empire, each conquered system glowing in deep crimson. 847 stars now belonged to the Empire, and High Commander Thraxus stood before the assembled War Council with pride swelling in his chest. "The humans," Thraxus announced, his forearms gesturing to a small cluster of yellow stars on the display. "Our intelligence confirms they control only 12 systems. Their largest vessels measure barely 600 meters. They possess no unified military command structure. Their weapons technology lags behind ours by at least 3 generations." The council members clicked their mandibles in approval. War Prince Kelvax, son of the Emperor himself, leaned forward in his seat. "How long until absorption?" One solar cycle," Thraxus replied confidently. "Perhaps less. Every species we have encountered either surrenders immediately or falls within weeks. The humans will be no different." On the far edge of human territory, Captain Min-Jun Park sat in the command chair of the UNS Indomitable. The ship was small by Valtorian standards, but its crew knew every system intimately. Park studied the sensor readings showing the massive Valtorian fleet gathering at the border. 300 ships, all larger and more heavily armed than anything humanity possessed. "Captain, incoming transmission," the communications officer reported. "It's from the Valtorian flagship. They're broadcasting on all frequencies." Park nodded. "Put it through." The message was simple and had been delivered to 1,000 species before. "Humans of Earth and her colonies, you have been selected for absorption into the Valtorian Empire. Surrender your vessels and worlds within 1 standard cycle. Resistance will be met with total destruction. This is your only warning." The bridge crew looked to their captain. Park smiled slightly, which surprised them. "Send a response. Tell them we acknowledge their message and will provide our answer when their deadline expires." "That's all, sir?" the communications officer asked. "That's all." On Earth, Admiral Sarah Chen Williams stood in the Global Defense Command Center, surrounded by holographic tactical displays. Representatives from every human nation filled the room, their faces calm despite the threat. They had been preparing for this moment for 5 years, ever since first contact with Valtorian scout ships. "They think we're like the others," Admiral Chen Williams said to the assembled leaders. "They've studied our public military parades, our civilian ship registries, our news broadcasts. They have no idea what we've actually built." General Baptiste from the Euro-African Alliance pulled up a classified file. "Project Labyrinth is fully operational. Every mining colony, agricultural station, and civilian habitat has been fortified and armed. The Valtorians will find no soft targets." "Project Hive?" Admiral Chen Williams asked. 3,000 autonomous combat drones, deployed throughout our territory," answered Commander Nakamura from the Pacific Defense Force. "Each one networked and learning from the others. The Valtorians have never faced adaptive AI warfare." "And our people?" President Okonkwo asked. Admiral Chen Williams smiled the same slight smile Captain Park had worn. "Every human who volunteered for military service knew what was coming. We have no illusions about Valtorian power, but we've studied their tactics for years. They rely on fear, overwhelming force, and technological superiority. They've conquered hundreds of species using the same playbook, and we're going to tear that playbook apart," General Baptiste finished. The Valtorian First Fleet entered human space exactly on schedule. High Commander Thraxus felt satisfaction, as his sensors showed the mining colony of New Johannesburg ahead. A small settlement, barely 20,000 humans, with only a handful of vessels in orbit. The perfect first target to demonstrate Valtorian might. "All ships, advance formation. Prepare to broadcast surrender terms," Thraxus commanded. But something unexpected happened. The human vessels did not flee. Instead, they opened communication channels, broadcasting openly to the entire Valtorian fleet. Valtorian vessels. This is New Johannesburg Defense Coordinator. Before we begin, we wanted to point out some historical parallels. Your approach formation matches the Kardak's hegemony's conquest pattern from 2 centuries ago. They conquered 47 systems before encountering a species that fought back differently than expected. They don't exist anymore. Thraxus felt confusion ripple through his mind. Prey species showed fear. They begged, they fled, they surrendered. They did not lecture their conquerors on military history. This is your final warning, Thraxus broadcast back. Surrender or be destroyed. We understand, the human coordinator replied. We formally request you provide a written declaration of war, according to Galactic Convention 7. We also offer you 24 hours to reconsider this action and withdraw peacefully. The Valtorian officers on the bridge looked at each other. One junior officer's translator must have malfunctioned. The humans were offering the Valtorians a chance to withdraw? Thraxus felt anger building. We do not withdraw. We do not reconsider. You have 1 hour to evacuate your colony before we reduce it to debris. Understood, the human replied calmly. Good luck, Commander Thraxus. How did they know his name? The hour passed. The Valtorian fleet advanced. Thraxus gave the order to fire on the colony's defensive platforms. The battle began exactly as every battle had begun for 300 years. Except this time, everything went wrong. The human fighters moved in patterns that made no sense. They wasted expensive missiles on feints, sacrificed unmanned vessels to draw Valtorian fire, and used the gravity wells of nearby asteroids to slingshot themselves into impossible attack vectors. One human pilot, Captain Jihei Kang, according to the intercepted communications, personally destroyed 4 Valtorian cruisers using tactics that seemed designed to waste resources. They're fighting inefficiently, one of Thraxus's officers reported. They expend 3 times the munitions necessary for each target. But somehow, the inefficient humans were winning. Valtorian ships exploded in carefully coordinated strikes. What seemed like chaos was actually precise planning. What looked like desperation was confidence. After 6 hours of battle, Thraxus gave an order he had never given before. All ships, withdraw. 47 Valtorian vessels remained behind, drifting wreckage in the void. New Johannesburg still stood, its colony intact, its defenders victorious. As the First Fleet retreated, a final message reached them from the humans. Just 3 words, delivered with that same inexplicable calm. Thank you for the practice run. High Commander Thraxus reported the loss to the War Council, insisting it was a fluke, an anomaly. The Council agreed. They dispatched the Second and Third Fleets together, 600 ships, to correct this embarrassment. The humans could not possibly stand against such overwhelming force. On Earth, Admiral Chen Williams watched the new Valtorian fleet approach. She smiled. They're sending more. Good. We need them to commit fully before we show them what humanity really looks like in war. The Kepler system had been humanity's agricultural hub for 20 years. Massive orbital farms produced food for 3 colonies, and the system's asteroid belt contained valuable minerals. To any outside observer, it appeared civilian, peaceful, and vulnerable. High Commander Thraxus saw it as the perfect target to restore Valtorian honor. 600 warships emerged from faster-than-light travel at the edge of the Kepler system. Thraxus stood on the bridge of his flagship, now commanding both the Second and Third Fleets. The Emperor himself had contacted Thraxus with clear instructions. No more failures, no more retreats, and absolutely no mercy. Sensor sweep, Thraxus ordered. The tactical officer studied his displays with confusion. Commander, I'm reading approximately 30 vessels in the system. All appear to be civilian transports or agricultural platforms. No military signatures detected. Thraxus felt his battle instincts warning him. The first engagement had taught him that humans did not behave like normal prey species. Weapons at ready, advance slowly, scan everything twice. The massive Valtorian fleet moved into the system in perfect formation. They passed the first asteroid cluster without incident. They approached the orbital farms, expecting them to be evacuated, expecting the humans to run. Instead, lights began activating across every structure in the system. "Commander," the tactical officer shouted. "Those civilian transports just lit up active weapon systems. The orbital farms are deploying military-grade particle cannons." "Sir, the entire system is armed." Lieutenant Commander Dae Hyun Song sat in a hidden command bunker built into one of Kepler's larger asteroids. Around him, holographic displays showed every Valtorian ship in the system. He had been waiting for this moment for 3 months, ever since Global Defense Command had ordered the militarization of Kepler's infrastructure. "All stations. This is command. Execute Plan Labyrinth. Show them what home territory really means." Across the Kepler system, civilians who were not truly civilians moved to battle stations they had trained on for months. Farmers became gunners. Miners became missile coordinators. Teachers, engineers, and administrators all had secondary roles in the defense network. Every single human in the system had volunteered to stay. Knowing the Valtorians were coming, knowing the danger, the orbital farms rotated on their axes, revealing weapons that had been hidden behind agricultural sections. The civilian transports dropped their disguises, their hulls opening to release swarms of attack drones. The asteroids themselves began moving, powered by hidden engines, taking up defensive positions that had been calculated months in advance. Thraxis watched in horror as his perfect formation became surrounded. The humans had not retreated. They had fortified an entire star system and turned every piece of it into a weapon. "All ships, defensive formation. Target the nearest platforms," Thraxis commanded. But the humans were not fighting like any military force the Valtorians had ever encountered. There was no command ship to target, no formation to break. Every human unit operated independently but coordinated perfectly. When Valtorian ships focused on the orbital farms, the transports struck from behind. When they targeted the transports, drones emerged from the asteroid field. When they fired on the drones, the farms resumed their bombardment. Captain Ji-Hae Kang piloted her fighter through a dense section of the asteroid belt, 4 other fighters following her lead. Her helmet display showed 37 Valtorian ships trying to flank the main human defensive line. They thought they had found a weakness in the human formation. They were wrong. "Ghost Squadron, weapons free. Let's teach these lizards about 3-dimensional warfare." Her squadron attacked from above the orbital plane, a direction the Valtorians rarely considered. Their military doctrine assumed combat happened on a flat battlefield. Even in space, humans had no such assumption. The 5 fighters destroyed 6 Valtorian destroyers before the enemy even realized they were under attack from a new vector. On his command station, Lieutenant Commander Song watched the battle develop exactly as the simulations had predicted. The Valtorians were predictable, following their doctrine rigidly. Even when it stopped working, they kept trying to establish firing lines, kept trying to achieve superior firepower at a single point, kept treating space combat like an ancient naval battle on an ocean surface. Humans fought differently. Every rock could hide a weapon. Every civilian structure could be a fortress. Every retreat was positioning for the next strike. Space was not a flat ocean. It was a vast 3-dimensional battlefield, and humans intended to use every centimeter of it. "Commander, the Valtorian flagship is attempting to withdraw," one of Song's officers reported. Song smiled. "Not yet. Activate the hive." See end quote. See end quote. Deep within Kepler's asteroid field, 3,000 autonomous drones received their activation signal. These were not simple weapons platforms. Each drone contained an adaptive learning system, networked to every other drone, capable of analyzing enemy tactics in real time and adjusting its behavior accordingly. They had been watching the battle for 3 hours, learning, waiting. Now, they deployed. Thraxis saw his tactical display suddenly fill with new contacts. Thousands of small craft, moving in patterns that seemed random but somehow always positioned perfectly to exploit any gap in Valtorian defenses. His weapons officers fired frantically, destroying dozens of drones. But each destroyed drone transmitted its final data to the others. The swarm learned from every loss, adapted to every tactic, became more efficient with each passing minute. Fleet coordination is breaking down, his communications officer reported in panic. Ships are reporting targeting system malfunctions. Fire control is acting erratically. Impossible, Thraxis said. Our systems are isolated and secured, but the humans had 5 years to study Valtorian technology. 5 years to find weaknesses. While the drones attacked physically, human cyber warfare teams attacked digitally. They did not try to control Valtorian ships, which would have been impossible. Instead, they introduced tiny errors in targeting calculations, small delays in communication, barely noticeable glitches that compounded into chaos. A Valtorian cruiser fired on what its sensors identified as a human transport. The shot missed by 3 meters due to a targeting error, struck a friendly destroyer instead. The destroyer's damaged reactor exploded, taking 2 more Valtorian ships with it. Across the battlefield, similar incidents multiplied. Major Seo-Yeon Choi watched from her assault transport as Valtorian ships began firing on each other, their coordination falling apart. She commanded 300 human marines, and they were about to do something the Valtorians had never imagined. All teams, prepare for boarding action. Target those 3 cruisers. Let's show them that void warfare isn't just ship-to-ship combat. Her transport attached to a Valtorian cruiser's hull using magnetic clamps. Breaching charges blew open an airlock. The Marines poured into the ship. Weapons ready. The Valtorian crew, trained for ship operations and long-range combat, had no preparation for close-quarters battle inside their own vessels. The humans moved through corridors with brutal efficiency, capturing engineering sections and weapon controls. Within 20 minutes, 3 Valtorian cruisers flew human colors. Their weapons now turned against their former fleet. High Commander Thraxis saw his fleet crumbling. 400 ships lost. Weapons systems compromised. Coordination broken. And now humans were inside his vessels, fighting room by room. This was not war as he understood it. This was chaos, improvisation, and aggressive creativity that his rigid tactical training had no answer for. All ships, retreat, full withdrawal. Thraxis broadcast on all frequencies. The Valtorian fleet fled the Kepler system in complete disarray. Behind them, the humans did not pursue. They had achieved their objective. Lieutenant Commander Song sent a final transmission to the retreating vessels. Next time, bring your Emperor. We have more to show him. Across the galaxy, news networks broadcast the battle. The invincible Valtorian Empire had been defeated twice. Hundreds of subjugated species watched in amazement. The humans, a young species barely a century in space, had achieved what no one else had managed in 300 years. On Valtoria Prime, the Emperor received the casualty reports in silence. 423 ships lost. 7,000 crew dead. 3 capital ships captured. And the humans remained undefeated in their territory. The Emperor made a decision. He summoned War Prince Kelvax, his eldest son, and commander of the Imperial Guard. The humans have defeated our regular forces. They will not defeat our elite. Take 400 of our finest ships, our best warriors, our most advanced technology. Go to Earth itself and end this. War Prince Kelvax bowed. The Imperial Guard had never been defeated in 200 years of existence. They would not fail now. The humans would finally learn true fear. War Prince Kelvax stood on the bridge of the Imperial Sovereign, flagship of the Valtorian Imperial Guard. Around him, 400 of the most advanced warships ever constructed by the Empire prepared for battle. Each vessel was crewed by warriors who had trained their entire lives for combat. Each ship contained technology decades ahead of standard Valtorian military equipment. The Imperial Guard had crushed rebellions, defeated invasion forces, and maintained the Empire's power for 2 centuries without a single defeat. Your Highness, "We are approaching the human home system," the navigation officer reported. Kelvax studied the tactical display. The system contained one inhabited planet, Earth, along with several military stations and orbital defense platforms. Sensor readings showed a significant military presence, but nothing that concerned him. The guards' weapons could destroy planetary shields. Their armor could withstand sustained bombardment. Their tactical computers could predict enemy movements 3 steps ahead. All ships, battle formation Sovereign Fist. We go directly to Earth. Let the humans watch their homeworld fall from orbit. This ends today. On Earth, Admiral Sarah Chen Williams stood in the orbital fortress Olympus Station. The massive structure hung above the planet's surface, bristling with weapons, and surrounded by smaller defensive platforms. She watched the Valtorian Imperial Guard approach in perfect formation. Each ship positioned precisely to support the others. It was beautiful, in a way. The ultimate expression of military discipline and power. "Admiral, evacuation shuttles have departed," her second-in-command reported. "All non-essential personnel are away. Military stations are at full readiness." Admiral Chen Williams nodded. "Then let's show them what humans are willing to die for. Send the signal to all stations. Execute Protocol Final Stand." Across Earth's orbital space, human forces prepared for the most difficult battle of their lives. Everyone present had volunteered to stay, knowing the Imperial Guard's reputation, understanding the risks. But they also understood what defeat meant. If Earth fell, humanity would be scattered, conquered, enslaved. This was the line that could not break. Captain Minjun Park sat in the repair bay of the UNS. Indomitable. His ship heavily damaged from the Kepler engagement. Engineers worked frantically to restore critical systems. Park knew his vessel would not be at full capability for the coming battle. But he refused to sit it out. "Captain, weapons are back online," his chief engineer reported. "Engines are at 60%. Life support is stable. She'll hold together." "Then get us to the defensive line," Park ordered. "We're not sitting this one out." The battle began with a display of Valtorian might. The Imperial Guard opened fire with coordinated precision, their weapons striking human defensive platforms with devastating accuracy. Shields failed, armor melted, and 3 orbital stations exploded in the first 5 minutes. Human return fire seemed uncoordinated by comparison, missiles and particle beams striking Valtorian shields that absorbed the damage effortlessly. War Prince Kelvax felt satisfaction. See how they crumble before true military excellence. Continue the bombardment. Target their command station. But something unexpected happened. The humans who should have been panicking, who should have been retreating, instead pressed forward with ferocious determination. Damaged ships rammed Valtorian vessels. Stations on the verge of destruction self-destructed when enemy ships came close, taking Imperial Guard vessels with them. Human fighters attacked in waves that seemed suicidal. But each wave collected data, tested defenses, and probed for weaknesses. Captain Jihei Kong led a squadron of 30 fighters against a formation of Imperial Guard cruisers. Her sensors showed their shields could absorb everything her squadron could throw at them. But she also noticed something the Valtorian computers had not accounted for. The shields were designed to stop energy weapons and kinetic projectiles. They were not designed to stop a fighter craft traveling at maximum velocity. "All ships. Kamikaze protocol," she ordered. Her squadron knew what this meant. Their fighters were equipped with escape pods that could eject milliseconds before impact. It was dangerous, possibly fatal, but it was their only chance to penetrate those shields. Her fighter accelerated to maximum speed, aimed directly at the largest cruiser's bridge section. At the last possible moment, she ejected. Her fighter, traveling at a significant fraction of light speed, punched through the shield and tore into the cruiser's hull. Behind her, 29 other fighters did the same. 8 cruisers of the Imperial Guard tumbled out of formation, hulls breached, systems failing. War Prince Kelvax watched in shock as elite vessels fell to tactics that seemed insane. What species sacrificed their ships for minimal tactical gain? But the humans kept doing it, kept finding ways to hurt the Imperial Guard that made no logical sense. On Olympus Station, Admiral Chen Williams tracked the battle progression. Human losses were severe, far worse than Kepler or New Johannesburg, but they were holding the line, buying time for the real weapon to activate. "Admiral, Project Evolution is ready," her tactical officer reported. Admiral Chen Williams took a deep breath. "Activate it. Let's see what 3 battles worth of data produces." Throughout Earth's defensive network, artificial intelligence systems came online. These were not simple targeting computers or tactical programs. Each AI had been observing Valtorian combat patterns since the first engagement, learning from every battle, every tactic, every ship movement. They had absorbed data from 3 major conflicts, analyzing millions of individual combat decisions. Now they understood how Valtorians thought, how they fought, what they would do before they did it. The change was immediate and terrifying for the Imperial Guard. Human weapons fire, which had seemed random and desperate, suddenly became perfectly coordinated. Every shot struck weak points in shields, every missile targeted vulnerable systems, every movement exploited gaps in Valtorian formations. The humans began fighting with a precision that exceeded the Guard's own tactical computers. War Prince Kelvax felt his certainty crumbling. "Analysis. How are they doing this?" "They're predicting our movements," his tactical officer replied with disbelief. "Every maneuver we make, they've already positioned to counter it. It's as if they know our tactical doctrine better than we do." They did. The human AIs had not just learned Valtorian tactics, they had mastered them completely. And now they used that knowledge to dismantle the Imperial Guard piece by piece. Major Seo Yun Choi led another boarding action, this time against War Prince Kelvax's own flagship. The plan was audacious, to the point of madness. Capture the enemy commander in the middle of a battle, on his own ship, surrounded by his best warriors. But the human AIs had calculated the opportunity and transmitted it to her team. Her assault transport latched onto the Imperial Sovereign's hull. Breaching charges blew open a maintenance airlock. 150 human Marines poured into the most heavily defended ship in the Valtorian fleet. The Imperial Guard warriors inside were the finest the Empire could produce, trained in personal combat, armed with advanced weapons. But they had trained for challenges from other Valtorian warriors, for formal duels and honor combat. They had never faced humans who fought with brutal practicality, who used every dirty trick, every environmental advantage, every psychological pressure. Major Choi's team moved through the ship like a predatory pack. They used flash grenades, smoke, and electromagnetic pulse weapons to confuse and disorient. They sealed bulkheads behind them, vented atmosphere ahead of them, and turned the ship itself into a weapon against its crew. Within 30 minutes, they had fought their way to the command deck. War Prince Kelvax drew his ceremonial blade as humans breached his bridge. He was a warrior prince, trained since birth in combat. He would die with honor rather than surrender. But the humans did not kill him. They used stun weapons, overwhelming force, and gave him no chance to fight back. He was unconscious and being carried back to the assault transport. "Command, this is boarding Team 7. Major Choi transmitted. "Package secure. War Prince Kelvax is in custody." Across the battlefield, the effect was immediate. The Imperial Guard's command structure collapsed. Their flagship's capture broke something fundamental in their understanding of warfare. They had come to conquer Earth, confident in their invincibility. Instead, their prince was captured. Their tactics were turned against them, and humans had proven completely dominant despite inferior technology and numbers. Captain Park, from his damaged bridge, watched Valtorian ships begin to retreat. His crew was exhausted, wounded, running on emergency power, but they had held the line. Earth remained free. Admiral Chen Williams broadcast on all frequencies, to the retreating Imperial Guard, to Earth below, and to the galaxy beyond. To any Valtorian forces still in this system, you have 1 hour to surrender or leave. Your war prince is our prisoner, but remains unharmed. We do not wish to kill you. We only wish to remain free. The remaining Imperial Guard ships fled. For the first time in 200 years, the elite force had been utterly defeated. The invincible warriors had been outfought, outwitted, and overpowered by a species they had dismissed as primitive. On Valtoria Prime, the Emperor received the news in silence. His son captured, his best forces destroyed, and the humans still standing, victorious. For 300 years, the Empire had conquered through strength and fear. But the humans had shown that strength could be matched, fear could be overcome, and victory was not determined by technology alone. The Emperor understood something profound in that moment. The galaxy had changed. The Valtorian Empire's age of easy conquest was over, and it had ended because humans smiled when they should have been afraid, fought when they should have surrendered, and won when they should have lost. The Galactic Council Chamber had hosted many emergency sessions over its 1,000-year history, but none quite like this. Representatives from 300 species gathered in the massive circular chamber, their holographic forms projected from worlds across the galaxy. The topic required no explanation. Everyone had watched the Valtorian-human war unfold over the past weeks. The invincible empire had been defeated by a species barely 1 century old in galactic terms. Councillor Tharn of the Velzir Collective called the session to order. The Velzir had been among the first species conquered by the Valtorians 2 centuries ago, and his voice carried the weight of hundreds of millions who had suffered under Valtorian rule. We are here to discuss the human-Valtorian conflict and its implications for galactic peace. The humans have requested to address this council. I now grant them the floor. Admiral Sarah Chen Williams appeared via holographic projection from Earth. Beside her stood a figure that caused gasps throughout the chamber. War Prince Kelvax, the captured commander of the Imperial Guard, wearing no restraints and showing no signs of mistreatment. Honored counselors, Admiral Chen Williams began, her voice calm and measured. Humanity did not seek this war. We were given an ultimatum by the Valtorian Empire, to surrender or be destroyed. We chose a third option, to defend ourselves and demonstrate that conquest is not inevitable. That military might does not guarantee victory, and that even the most powerful empire can be defeated by a determined people fighting for their freedom. Many counselors nodded. They had lived under Valtorian domination for generations, always believing resistance was impossible. The humans had proven otherwise. We present our terms to the Valtorian Empire. The Admiral continued. Complete withdrawal from human space, reparations for damage caused to our colonies and stations, and a mutual defense treaty ensuring no future aggression. We also demand the release of all species currently held under forced vassalage by the Empire. The chamber erupted in shocked discussion. The humans were not asking for Valtorian territory, not demanding submission, not seeking revenge. They were asking for freedom, both for themselves and for others. But the next part of the Admiral's statement shocked the galaxy even more. Additionally, humanity hereby releases all Valtorian prisoners of war, including War Prince Kelvax, immediately and without ransom. We return them to their people, unharmed and with honor. We fought to protect ourselves, not to humiliate our enemies. War Prince Kelvax stepped forward. His presence at the council had been surprising enough, but his next words would reshape galactic politics for generations. Counselors, I am War Prince Kelvax of the Valtorian Empire. I was captured in battle, held prisoner by humanity, and I stand before you today having witnessed something I did not think possible. The humans defeated us not through brutality or deception, but through courage, innovation, and a willingness to sacrifice for something greater than themselves. They had every right to execute me, to parade me as a trophy, to use me as leverage. Instead, they treated me with respect, explained their principles, and showed me that true strength is not found in domination, but in protection. Captain Minjun Park watched the council proceedings from his quarters on the repaired UNS Indomitable. He had been invited to address the council as well, but had deferred to the Admiral. Now, Monitoring the reactions of council members, he saw hope emerging on faces that had not known hope in centuries. The Velzir counselor spoke next. Admiral Chen Williams, your offer is generous beyond precedent. But many of us have suffered under Valtorian rule for so long that we lack the military capability to maintain independence, even if it were granted. What becomes of us? Admiral Chen Williams smiled. Counselor, humanity proposes the formation of a galactic defense coalition. We offer to train any species who wishes to learn defensive military tactics, to share our knowledge of asymmetric warfare, and to help establish defense networks that will make conquest too costly for any would-be empire. We do not seek to become the new power dominating the galaxy. We seek to ensure that no species can dominate others. Lieutenant Commander Daehyun Song stood in the Earth Defense Command Center, coordinating the logistics of this new proposal. The data was staggering. 47 species had already submitted formal requests to join the coalition. 17 former Valtorian client species wanted immediate military training. The galaxy was changing faster than anyone had predicted. Sir, we're receiving a message from Valtoria Prime, a communications officer reported. It's from the Emperor himself. On Valtoria Prime, the Emperor sat in his private chambers, surrounded by advisors arguing about humanity's demands. Some called for continued war, claiming the Empire's honor demanded it. Others counseled acceptance, pointing out that 3 failed military campaigns had cost them over 1,000 ships and tens of thousands of lives. The Empire was wounded, its invincibility shattered. The Emperor silenced them all with a gesture. He had made his decision. Broadcast this message to the Galactic Council, he ordered. The Valtorian Empire accepts all human terms. We withdraw from human space immediately. We will pay reparations as demanded. We grant independence to all vassal species who wish it. And we formally request to join the Galactic Defense Coalition, so that we may learn from those who defeated us. The last sentence shocked even his own advisors. Join a coalition led by the species that had humiliated the Empire? It was unprecedented, unthinkable, but the Emperor understood what his military commanders did not. The galaxy had changed, and the Empire could either change with it or become irrelevant. 6 months passed. The transformation of galactic politics proceeded faster than anyone had imagined. The Galactic Defense Coalition now included 63 species, with humanity providing tactical training and defensive doctrine. The concept was revolutionary, not to build conquering armies, but to make every system too difficult to attack, to make conquest so costly that no aggressor would attempt it. Captain Ji-Hei Kang found herself assigned as a training instructor on the Velzir homeworld, teaching fighter tactics to pilots who had never been allowed to possess military-grade ships. She watched them practice the maneuvers that had defeated the Imperial Guard, saw their pride in mastering skills that could protect their people. Instructor Kang, one of the Velzir pilots, asked after a training session, "When the Valtorians attacked you, were you afraid?" Kang considered the question. Yes. Fear is natural when facing a powerful enemy, but fear did not control us. We channeled it into determination, preparation, and a refusal to surrender our freedom. Fear can make you stronger if you do not let it make you helpless. Major Seo-Yun Choi helped establish a new marine training facility on the Talrix colony, teaching close-quarters combat to species who had never considered that boarding actions were possible in modern warfare. Her students included both former Valtorian subjects and young Valtorian warriors sent by their reformed military command. The irony was not lost on anyone, but the training proceeded with mutual respect. 3 former Valtorian client species successfully defended themselves against pirate raids using the tactics learned from human instructors. The raids had been common before, preying on weak systems that could not defend themselves. Now those same systems proved too dangerous to attack. The raiders moved on, seeking easier prey that no longer existed. War Prince Kelvax underwent his own transformation. Upon his return to Valtoria Prime, he had been expected to resume his military command. Instead, He requested reassignment as an ambassador to the Galactic Defense Coalition. His father, the Emperor, initially refused, seeing it as a loss of honor, but Kelvax persisted, arguing that true honor lay in serving his people's future rather than clinging to a violent past. Now he traveled between worlds, speaking about his experience as a human prisoner, explaining what he had learned about the difference between conquest and protection, between domination and cooperation. His words carried weight precisely because he had been the Empire's finest warrior and had lost to something greater than military might. At a neutral space station near the border between human and former Valtorian territory, Captain Min Jun Park sat in a small bar with High Commander Thraxus, the Valtorian officer who had led the first failed invasion. The meeting had been arranged as part of the peace process, a chance for former enemies to find common ground. Thraxus stared into his drink. 4 arms wrapped around himself in a gesture Park had learned indicated deep thought among Valtorians. Captain Park, I have a question that troubles me. We sent our best warriors to conquer you. We brought overwhelming force, superior technology, and 300 years of military success. You smiled, defeated us, captured our prince, and then released him with honor. Why? We would have killed your leaders. We would have enslaved your people. Why show us mercy? Park considered his words carefully. Because we fought to protect our freedom, not to destroy yours. Because we believe every species has the right to exist without domination. Because mercy after victory demonstrates greater strength than brutality ever could. You came to conquer us, Commander Thraxus. We defeated you, and then taught you why you should never have come in the first place. That is a victory that lasts longer than any military occupation. Thraxus was quiet for a long moment. Then, he raised his glass in a gesture of respect. That is a victory we cannot comprehend. But we are trying to learn. On Earth, Admiral Sarah Chen Williams stood before a new graduating class at the Global Defense Academy. The classroom contained not just human cadets, but young officers from 19 different species, all learning together, sharing knowledge, building the foundations of a new galactic order. You are the first generation of defenders, trained not for conquest but for protection, she told them. The galaxy watched humanity face impossible odds and refuse to surrender. They watched us win through courage, innovation, and sacrifice. But more importantly, they watched us show mercy after victory. That combination, strength tempered by compassion, is what will make the coalition successful. You will face challenges. You will encounter species who still believe in the old ways of domination and conquest. But you will show them, as humanity showed the Valtorians, that there is a better way. At the Earth Defense Academy, Officer Candidate Jiwoo Nam stood at the front of a classroom teaching mixed-species students about asymmetric warfare. She was young, only 3 years out of her own basic training, but she had fought in all 3 major battles against the Valtorians. Her students listened with intense focus as she explained how apparent weakness could become strength, how creativity could defeat superior technology, how determination could overcome impossible odds. Remember, she told them, warfare is not about who has the biggest ships or the most powerful weapons. It is about who wants it more, who thinks more creatively, and who understands what they are truly fighting for. The Valtorians thought they were fighting to expand their empire. We knew we were fighting for our survival and our freedom. That made all the difference. The galaxy had changed. The age of easy conquest was over. The Valtorian Empire, humbled but not destroyed, was slowly transforming into something new. Former subject species were learning to defend themselves. And humanity, the young species that should have been conquered in weeks, had become the unexpected guardian of galactic freedom. It had started with a smile in the face of overwhelming force. It had continued with victories that should have been impossible. And it had concluded with mercy that transformed enemies into allies. The humans had crushed the Empire's military might. But more importantly, they had crushed the idea that conquest was inevitable, that the strong would always dominate the weak, that freedom could not be defended. The galaxy would remember this lesson for a very long time.
The great chamber of Concordia Station stretched wide and tall, filled with beings from across the galaxy. Ambassador Min Jun Park stood at the human delegation's platform, his hands steady despite the tension in the air. Around him, 47 different species sat in their assigned seats, each watching the proceedings with their own unique eyes, sensors, or perception organs. Min Jun had spent 15 years building relationships with these people. He had shared meals with the Virani, discussed philosophy with the Korthan scholars, and negotiated fair trade agreements with the Zephrani merchants. He thought he had built trust. He thought humans had finally found their place among the stars. He was wrong. The council speaker, a towering Callian with silver scales and 3 pairs of eyes, raised her primary arms for silence. Her voice echoed through the translation devices everyone wore. "We gather today to address the human question," she announced. "For 30 years, humanity has been part of our galactic community. In that time, we have observed patterns that cause great concern." Min Jun felt his stomach tighten. This was not the trade negotiation he had been told to expect. The speaker continued. "Humans expand too quickly. They ask too many questions. They change too fast. Their emotions make them unpredictable. Their technologies develop in directions we cannot always understand or control." A Korthan representative stood, his feathers rippling with agitation. "Just last year, humans developed a new engine design without proper council approval. They share their culture too freely, disrupting traditional values on 12 worlds. They refuse to accept that some knowledge should remain restricted. They are dangerous," added a Zephrani delegate, her crystalline body flashing red. "Not because they wish harm, but because they do not understand limits." Min Jun requested permission to speak. The speaker granted it with a reluctant gesture. "We have broken no laws," Min Jun said, keeping his voice calm and clear. "We have honored every treaty. Yes, we are curious. Yes, we grow quickly. But we have only sought friendship and mutual benefit. If we have caused offense, we will listen and learn." The speaker's expression was unreadable. "This is not about laws, Ambassador Park. This is about compatibility. The Council has determined that humanity is not ready for full galactic integration. Perhaps in a few thousand years, your species will have matured sufficiently." Min Jun's heart began to pound. "What exactly are you proposing?" "The Galactic Council is voting today on Resolution 4401. This resolution will ban humanity from all galactic trade networks, deny access to jump gate systems, and terminate all diplomatic relations. Human colonies and stations in galactic space will have 90 days to evacuate all non-human residents and cease all commerce." The words hit Min Jun like physical blows. This was not a warning. This was exile. "You are isolating an entire species," Min Jun said, and for the first time, anger crept into his voice. "We are talking about billions of people, colonies that depend on trade, medical supplies, food shipments. You will cause suffering on a massive scale." "We regret the hardship," the speaker said, though her tone suggested otherwise. "But the majority has spoken. We must protect the stability of galactic civilization." "May we at least hear the charges fully? May we defend ourselves properly?" Min Jun asked. "There are no charges, Ambassador. This is not a trial. This is a decision made for the greater good." The vote was called. Min Jun watched the display screens as each species registered their choice. The numbers climbed steadily. 39 species voted yes to the ban. Only 8 voted no. The Virani, small and often dismissed, were among those 8. So were the Tokai, who had fought alongside humans in defending a mining colony from pirates 3 years ago. But it was not enough. "The resolution passes," the speaker announced. "Humanity is hereby banned from the Galactic Council and all associated systems. This decision is final and will take effect immediately." Min Jun stood silent for a long moment. Around him, the other two members of Earth's delegation looked stunned. Dr. Sarah Chen gripped the railing of their platform. Commander James Wright's jaw was clenched tight. Finally, Min Jun spoke. His voice was steady now, cold and clear. "You ask us to remember that we are young. You tell us we need thousands of years to mature. Very well. We will remember this day. We will remember that when we came to you in friendship, you chose fear. When we offered cooperation, you chose isolation. When we needed understanding, you chose judgment." He paused, looking at each section of the Great Chamber. "Humanity will accept this ban. We will leave your space. We will take care of our own people. But I make you this promise. Not as a threat, but as a fact. We will not forget. We will not give up, and we will not disappear. Whatever happens next, you have chosen it yourselves." The chamber remained silent as the human delegation turned to leave. Min Jun walked with his head high, though inside he felt the weight of representing an entire species that had just been cast out. As they reached the exit, a small figure approached. It was one of the Varani delegates, her fur rippling with distress. "Ambassador Park," she whispered in heavily accented Standard. "Not all of us agree. Some of us remember what you have done for us. Some of us will remember." Min Jun nodded to her, grateful for the small comfort. "Thank you. That means more than you know." The Varani hurried away before anyone could notice their conversation. Commander Wright waited until they were in the shuttle back to their ship before he spoke. "What do we do now?" Min Jun stared out the window at the vast station, at the ships from dozens of worlds coming and going freely through the jump gates that would soon be denied to humans. "Now," he said quietly, "now we go home. We tell Earth what has happened, and then we figure out how to survive." Dr. Chen leaned forward. "Do you really think we can? Without galactic trade? Without their technology?" Min Jun was quiet for a long time. Then he said something that surprised even himself. "I think they just made the biggest mistake in galactic history. They think isolation will weaken us. They think we will beg to be let back in." He looked at his colleagues. "They do not understand humans at all. We are at our best when we have no choice but to be strong." The shuttle carried them away from Concordia Station, away from the galaxy that had rejected them, back toward Earth and an uncertain future. Behind them, in the council chamber, the speaker was already moving on to the next item of business, dismissing humanity as a problem solved. She would learn otherwise. They all would. 5 years had passed since the ban, and Earth had changed in ways no one could have predicted. Min Jun Park stood in his new office in Geneva, looking at screens showing reports from across human space. His title was different now. He was no longer an ambassador to anyone. Instead, he directed the Terran Independence Initiative, the organization responsible for keeping humanity alive and moving forward. The first 2 years had been terrible. Without access to galactic markets, Earth's economy had crashed. Colonies that depended on imported food faced starvation. Medical facilities lost access to advanced alien medicines. Ships stranded outside human space had to make dangerous journeys home through uncharted routes, and not all of them made it. Min Jun remembered the protests, the riots, the demands that Earth's government begged the Council for mercy. He remembered the night he almost gave in, almost drafted a message of apology and submission. But something had stopped him. Maybe it was pride. Maybe it was stubbornness. Or maybe it was the memory of the Callian speaker's dismissive tone when she told humanity they needed thousands of years to grow up. So instead of begging, humanity had worked. The screens in front of Min Jun told the story. Food production had increased by 40% using new farming techniques developed by desperate agricultural scientists. Medical researchers, unable to access alien compounds, had gone back to basics and discovered new treatments from Earth's own biology. Engineers who once relied on galactic blueprints had been forced to innovate, and their solutions were often better than what they had been copying. "Director Park?" A voice interrupted his thoughts. Dr. Hyejin Choi stood in the doorway, her eyes bright with excitement. "We did it! The test was successful!" Min-jun turned from the screens. Dr. Choi was young, barely 30, but she had become one of humanity's most important scientists. For 3 years, she had been working on a problem that seemed impossible. "You are sure?" Min-jun asked. "Completely sure. We do not need their jump gates anymore. Our ships can travel faster than light using a completely different method." Dr. Choi pulled up holographic displays, showing equations and diagrams that Min-jun barely understood. "It works differently from anything the galactic species use. We fold space using quantum resonance patterns. It is actually faster than their gates for long distances." Min-jun sat down slowly. This changed everything. The Council's ban had power because they controlled the jump gates, the network that connected the entire galaxy. Without access to those gates, human ships had been trapped using slower-than-light travel, making anything beyond the solar system nearly impossible to reach. "How long until we can put this on our ships?" he asked. "The first engine is already installed on a test vessel. We could have 20 ships ready in 6 months, 100 in a year." Min-jun allowed himself a small smile. The Council is going to be very surprised. But there was more news that day. As Min-jun and Dr. Choi discussed the implications of the new drive system, an urgent message came through on his private channel. The sender was using old codes, ones Min-jun had not seen in years. It was from the Varani. Min-jun opened the message in private. The small, furry face of Ambassador Kalira appeared, and she looked frightened. "Min-jun Park," she said, using his personal name as she had when they were friends. "I need help. My government made the mistake of trading with a human merchant who slipped through the blockade. The Council discovered this. They have declared us treaty violators. Their enforcers are coming. We have nowhere to go." The message ended with coordinates and a desperate plea. "If humanity has any mercy left after what we did to you, please. We were one of the 8 who voted against the ban. We tried to stop this." Min-jun stood very still. Every logical part of his brain told him this was too dangerous. Humans were barely stable themselves. They could not afford to antagonize the Council. They should stay quiet, stay hidden, and keep building their strength. But another part of him, the part that made him human, remembered a small Varani delegate whispering words of support on the worst day of his life. He called an emergency meeting of the Terran Command Council. Within an hour, representatives from Earth's major governments gathered virtually around a conference table. Min-jun explained the situation. "The Varani are in trouble because they refuse to abandon us completely. The Council is sending ships to punish them. We can reach them first with our new drive system, but doing so will reveal our capabilities to the galaxy. It will also be seen as an act of defiance." "We are not ready for a confrontation with the Council," said the representative from the African Union. "We need more time. If we reveal ourselves now, we lose the element of surprise," added the East Asian Coalition speaker. "Our advantage disappears." Min-jun nodded. "All true. But if we abandon the Varani, we become exactly what the Council accused us of being. We lose our humanity. And I do not know about you, but that is the one thing I refuse to lose." There was silence around the table. Then the European Federation representative spoke. "We spent 5 years isolated, angry, and struggling, but we survived because we remembered who we are. If we start abandoning our principles now, what was the point?" One by one, the votes came in. It was not unanimous, but it was enough. Min-jun authorized the mission. The newly christened ship Resilience was prepared for launch. Its captain was Sung-ho Kim, a veteran of the merchant fleet who had been one of the last humans to make it home after the ban. He knew better than anyone what it meant to be stranded in an uncaring galaxy. "We are going to save some people who once tried to save us," Min Jun told Captain Kim, "and we are going to show the Council that they did not break us." Captain Kim saluted. "It will be my honor, Director." The Resilience launched 3 days later. It crossed distances in hours that would have taken months using old technology. The crew watched their screens in amazement as space folded around them, as stars blurred past in ways that should not have been possible. They reached the Varani homeworld system just as Council enforcer ships were arriving from the other direction. Captain Kim opened communications on all frequencies. His message was simple and clear. "This is the Terran vessel Resilience. We are here to evacuate Varani civilians who face unjust punishment. Any attempt to interfere will be met with defensive action. Humanity has returned to galactic space, and we will not abandon our friends." In his office on Earth, Min Jun watched the transmission and smiled. Behind him, Dr. Choi monitored the readings from the Resilience's new drive system. "The Council ships are not moving," she reported. "I think they are confused. They do not understand how we got there so fast." "Let them be confused," Min Jun said. "Let them wonder what else we have learned in 5 years." The Resilience began evacuating Varani civilians. The Council ships held their position, unwilling to fire without understanding what they were dealing with. And across the galaxy, on 100 worlds and 1,000 ships, beings who had secretly sympathized with humanity began to whisper. Humans were back. Humans were stronger. And humans had not forgotten their friends. The galaxy was about to learn that isolation had not weakened humanity. It had forged them into something new. The rescue of the Varani changed everything. Captain Sung-Ho Kim brought his ship back to Earth with 3,000 Varani refugees, beings who had lost their homes because they refused to completely abandon humanity. As the small, furry people stepped off the Resilience onto Earth soil, news cameras captured everything. The images spread across human networks and, more importantly, through secret channels into galactic space. The Council had called an emergency session within hours of the rescue. Min Jun watched the leaked footage from his office. The Council members were arguing loudly. Some demanded military action against humanity. Others urged caution, clearly worried about the technology humans had displayed. But what interested Min Jun most was what happened after that session ended. His communication system started receiving messages. The first came from the Tokai, an insectoid species who had voted against the ban 5 years ago. Their ambassador requested a private meeting. Then came a message from the Murathi, a species not even part of the Council, who lived in the outer regions where Council authority was weak. Then another. And another. Within a week, representatives from 12 different species had made secret contact with humanity. They all had similar stories. They were tired of the Council's rigid rules. They were frustrated by the Kallians' dominance of galactic politics. They were impressed by humanity's resilience and innovation. Most importantly, they wanted to trade. Min Jun organized a meeting on Luna, Earth's moon. He chose it because it was clearly human territory, but also because the location itself sent a message. Humans were no longer hiding. The conference room was built quickly, designed to accommodate beings of different sizes and atmospheric needs. When the delegates arrived, using their own ships and their own methods of travel, Min Jun greeted each one personally. Ambassador Kalira of the Varani was there, representing her people in exile. The Tokai sent their trade minister, a thoughtful being named Zixith, who communicated through pheromones and gestures. The Murathi brought their clan leader, a massive creature covered in rock-like armor. There were others, too. The Shen, who breathed methane and lived in cold environments. The Lyrath, energy beings who existed partially in another dimension. The Kesh, who looked almost human but had silver skin and could see ultraviolet light. Each had their reasons for being there, but they all shared one thing. They were tired of being dismissed, controlled, or ignored by the council. Min-jun stood before them and spoke plainly. 5 years ago, the galaxy told humanity we were not welcome. They said we were too young, too dangerous, too unpredictable. Maybe they were right about some of that, but what they did not understand is that we are also loyal, determined, and creative. We do not forget our friends, and we do not abandon people in need. He gestured to the Varani delegation. When the council punished the Varani for showing us kindness, we could have stayed hidden. We could have protected ourselves. Instead, we chose to help, because that is what humans do. Zixith, the Tokai minister, released pheromones that the translation system interpreted as approval. The council grows comfortable in their power. They forget that the galaxy is large and their authority is not absolute. Many of us have watched humanity with interest. Your rapid development, your cultural diversity, your willingness to challenge old assumptions. These are strengths, not weaknesses. The Marathi clan leader spoke in a deep, rumbling voice. My people exist on the edges of galactic civilization. The council takes our resources but gives us little in return. They tell us we are too primitive to have full representation. But humans have shown more respect in one meeting than the council has shown in a century. Min-jun saw the opportunity before him. What if we created something new? Not an opposition to the council, but an alternative. A compact between species who believe in fair trade, mutual respect, and genuine cooperation. The Terran Compact, Dr. Choi suggested quietly from her seat beside Min-jun. The name resonated around the room. One by one, the delegates signaled their interest. Over the next 3 months, the foundation was built. The Terran Compact was not trying to replace the Galactic Council. Instead, it existed as a separate entity, a network of species who chose to work together on their own terms. Humanity shared its new technologies freely with Compact members. Dr. Choi's faster-than-light drive became available to any species who joined. Human agricultural techniques helped the Shen increase food production on their frozen worlds. Human medicine, developed without alien compounds during the isolation years, proved effective for species whose biology was incompatible with Council treatments. In return, the Compact members shared their own knowledge. The Lyrath taught humans about energy manipulation. The Kesh shared their advanced sensor technology. The Tokai offered expertise in bioengineering. The Compact grew. By the end of the first year, 23 species had joined. Some were small species, like the Varani, who had little power in council politics. Others were larger groups who had been dissatisfied with council control for generations. The council watched this development with growing alarm. Min-jun received a message on his personal channel. It came through official diplomatic protocols, bearing the seal of the Galactic Council itself. The message was from a Korthan named Vel Shar, one of the Council's senior diplomats. His tone was carefully neutral. Director Park, the Council has observed the formation of what you call the Terran Compact. While we maintain that the ban on humanity was justified and necessary, we recognize that circumstances have evolved. The Council is prepared to discuss a limited restoration of diplomatic contact. In return, we would expect humanity to submit to Council oversight and to cease the expansion of your compact organization. Min-jun read the message 3 times. Then he called a meeting of the Compact's coordinating committee. They are offering to let us back in, he told the assembled representatives, but only if we agree to be controlled. Only if we abandon what we have built together. Ambassador Kalira's fur rippled with agitation. They fear you. They fear all of us. The Compact represents everything they cannot control. What will humanity choose? Asked Zixith. Min-jun thought about the past 5 years. The suffering during the isolation, the desperate innovation, the gradual building of something new and better. He thought about the Varani refugees who had found homes on Earth and Mars. He thought about the Murathi miners who now traded fairly with human colonies. He thought about the dozens of species who had found a voice in the compact that they never had in the council. "We will choose our friends," Min-Jun said. "We will choose freedom over permission." He composed his response to Velshar carefully. It was polite, professional, and absolutely clear. "The Terran Compact thanks the Galactic Council for their offer. However, we must respectfully decline. Humanity has moved forward, not backward. We have built partnerships based on mutual respect, not hierarchy. We invite the Council to engage with the Compact as equals, but we will not submit to oversight or control. The galaxy is large enough for multiple approaches to civilization." He sent the message knowing it would provoke a reaction. The reaction came swiftly. The Council announced security exercises near compact space. Council fleet movements increased. Trade restrictions were placed on any species that had contact with compact members. It was not quite a war, but it was close. Min-Jun stood on the observation deck of humanity's new orbital station, looking out at Earth below. Dr. Choi joined him, her expression worried. "They are preparing for conflict," she said. "Do you think we can stand against them if it comes to that?" Min-Jun was quiet for a long moment. "I do not know. The Council has more ships, more resources, more experience, but we have something they have forgotten about. We have a reason to fight. We are not defending an empire. We are defending the right to exist on our own terms." Far across the galaxy, in the council chambers on Concordia Station, the speaker was having the same conversation with her advisors. But her conclusion was different. "The humans must be brought to heel," she declared. "We gave them a chance to learn humility. Instead, they have become more defiant. The compact threatens everything we have built. We must act." The stage was set. The council and the compact stood opposed. Then something happened that no one expected. The plague started on Kalios Prime, the Kalian homeworld, and it spread with terrifying speed. Min-Jun first heard about it from intelligence reports. The Kalian, one of the founding species of the Galactic Council and its most powerful members, were facing a medical crisis unlike anything in their recorded history. A virus had mutated, jumping from their livestock to their population. Within weeks, millions were sick. Within a month, thousands were dying every day. The Council's best medical facilities were overwhelmed. Their advanced alien medicines, developed over thousands of years, had no effect on this new strain. The Kalian were one of the oldest spacefaring species, masters of biotechnology, and they were helpless. Dr. Choi brought Min-Jun the detailed analysis that Compact Intelligence had gathered. She spread the medical data across his desk, her expression serious. "This is bad," she said. "The Kalian immune system is sophisticated but specialized. This virus exploits a weakness in their cellular structure. Council medicine focuses on enhancement and optimization, but they have lost touch with basic immunology. They are trying to outthink the virus when they should be working with the body's natural defenses." Min-Jun studied the data. "Can we help?" Dr. Choi was quiet for a moment. "Maybe. During our isolation, we had to go back to basics. We studied Earth diseases, natural immunity, the fundamental ways that bodies fight infection. We developed a whole new approach to medicine because we could not access alien compounds anymore. This virus is alien, but the principles are the same." "How long would it take?" "To develop a treatment? With the data we have, maybe 3 weeks. Maybe less." Min-Jun leaned back in his chair. The irony was almost painful. The species that had banned humanity, that had declared humans too dangerous and unpredictable, now faced extinction from a disease that human medicine might be able to cure. "What are the ethics here?" he asked, not really expecting an answer. "They exiled us. They threatened us. They tried to strangle the compact before it could grow. Do we owe them anything? Dr. Choi met his eyes. That is not a question for a scientist. That is a question for a human being. Min-jun called an emergency meeting of the Compact's Coordinating Committee. The representatives gathered virtually, their faces showing a mix of emotions as he explained the situation. The Callian are dying, he said bluntly. We may be able to help. I am asking for your perspectives before humanity makes a decision. Ambassador Kalira spoke first, her voice bitter. The Callian led the vote to ban humanity. They were the loudest voices calling you dangerous. They have shown you no mercy. Why should you show them any? The Marathi clan leader rumbled in agreement. Let the council solve their own problems. They have treated the compact as a threat. Let them see what real threat looks like. But Zixith, the Tokai minister, released pheromones of contemplation. What we do now defines what we are. The compact was built on principles different from the council. If we choose to let millions die because of political anger, we become exactly what they accused humanity of being. The debate continued for hours. Min-jun listened to every perspective, understanding the anger and the fear. The council had 3 fleets positioned near compact space, clearly preparing for military action. Helping the Callian now might be seen as weakness. Finally, Min-jun made his decision. Dr. Choi will assemble a medical team. We will develop a treatment, and we will offer it to the Callian freely. They will never accept it, warned a Shen delegate. Their pride will not allow them to take help from humans. Min-jun smiled grimly. That is their choice to make. We will offer. What they do with the offer will tell the galaxy everything it needs to know about both of us. Dr. Choi worked around the clock with a team of human doctors and scientists. They were joined by compact members who had expertise in viral diseases. The Lyrath contributed their understanding of energy-based cellular processes. The Tokai shared bioengineering techniques. 18 days after starting work, Dr. Choi had a treatment protocol. It was not a miracle cure, but it would work. The virus could be stopped, the sick could be saved, but it required a fundamental approach that the Council's medicine had abandoned centuries ago. Min-jun composed a message to the Galactic Council. He knew it would be broadcast, analyzed, and debated across the entire galaxy. He chose his words carefully. To the Galactic Council and the people of Kalios Prime, humanity has learned of the medical crisis affecting the Callian population. Despite the history between our peoples, despite the ban and the threats, we cannot stand by while millions suffer. We have developed a treatment protocol that we believe will be effective against the virus. We offer this freely, with no conditions and no demands. We offer it because it is the right thing to do. We offer it because this is who humans are. The medical data and treatment protocols are attached to this message. Our medical teams stand ready to assist if requested. We hope you will accept this offer in the spirit it is given. He sent the message and waited. The response came not from the Council officially, but from individual Callian medical facilities who were desperate enough to try anything. They implemented the human protocols. Within days, patients began to recover. Within a week, the death rate dropped dramatically. The news spread across the galaxy like light through water. Min-jun watched as the reports came in. Callian lives saved by human medicine. The treatment worked. The crisis was ending. But the political impact was even more dramatic. The council met in emergency session. Min-jun obtained leaked footage of the debate. Speaker Veshetala, the same Callian who had presided over humanity's banishment, stood before a divided chamber. "We face a choice," she said, her voice heavy with something that might have been shame. "We can maintain our pride and our policies, or we can acknowledge a truth that has become unavoidable. Humanity is not the danger we claim them to be. The Terran Compact is not the threat we feared. We made a mistake 5 years ago, and today that mistake has been laid bare for the entire galaxy to see." The debate was fierce. Some council members argued for maintaining the ban, claiming that accepting human help was a sign of weakness. Others pointed out that millions of Callian were alive because of humans, and that fact could not be ignored. Across the galaxy, public opinion was shifting dramatically. The story was simple and powerful. Humans had been exiled, had been threatened, had every reason to let their enemies suffer. Instead, they had chosen compassion. They had chosen to help. Species began to ask questions. If the Council was wrong about humanity, what else were they wrong about? If humans could develop medicine that the Council could not, what did that say about Council superiority? 8 Council species formally announced their withdrawal to join the Terran Compact. They were led by the Tokai, who had always been skeptical of Callian dominance, but they included others: the Rin, master shipbuilders; the Orvax, agricultural experts; the Zenith, whose computational abilities were legendary. The Council was fracturing. Minjun received another message from Velshar, the Korthan diplomat. This time, the tone was very different. Director Park, the Council has voted to repeal the ban on humanity. You are invited to return to full diplomatic and trade relations. The Council acknowledges that errors were made in the original assessment of humanity's character. We hope to begin a new era of cooperation. Min Jun read the message to the Compact Coordinating Committee. Ambassador Kalira's fur rippled with satisfaction. They blink first. You have won. But Min Jun shook his head slowly. This is not about winning. This was never about defeating the Council. It was about building something better. He composed his response carefully. The Terran Compact appreciates the Council's decision to repeal the ban. However, we must respectfully decline to rejoin the Council structure. We have built something new here, something based on equality and genuine cooperation. We are not interested in returning to a system where some species are more equal than others. Instead, we propose a different relationship. Let the Council and the Compact exist as separate but equal entities. Let species choose which system suits them better, or participate in both if they wish. Let us compete not through military force or economic pressure, but through the quality of the civilizations we build. He sent the message and turned to his team. We are offering them a way forward that saves face but changes everything. They can accept that the galaxy is big enough for different approaches, or they can fight to maintain their monopoly on power. Dr. Choi smiled. They will accept. They have no choice. Half their members are already talking about joining the Compact. If they fight us now, they will lose everything. She was right. 3 days later, the Council issued a formal response. They would accept the Compact as an equal organization. They would not demand that species choose between Council and Compact membership. The galaxy would be shared. It was not perfect. There was still tension, still competition, still disagreement. But it was a new beginning. Minjun stood once again on the observation deck, watching Earth rotate below. Sung-Ho Kim joined him this time, the captain having become a close friend over the years. We did it, Sung-Ho said quietly. 5 years ago, they threw us out. Now we are partners. Not quite partners yet, Minjun corrected. But we are equals. That is enough. What happens now? Sung-Ho asked. Minjun smiled. Now we prove that our way works. We show the galaxy that cooperation is stronger than control, that diversity is better than conformity, that being banned was the best thing that ever happened to us. The first Joint Council Compact Summit was held on neutral ground, a newly constructed station called Unity Point. The name was optimistic, perhaps overly so, but Min Jun appreciated the symbolism. He arrived on the Resilience, with Captain Sung-Ho Kim at the helm and Dr. Hyejin Choi by his side. They were not alone. Representatives from 19 other compact species traveled with them, a demonstration of the alliance they had built. The council delegation arrived in their traditional procession, ships from dozens of worlds forming an impressive display. Speaker Veshitala led them, her silver scales gleaming under the station's lights. She looked older than she had 5 years ago, worn down by crisis and change. The two groups met in the central chamber, designed to accommodate the different environmental needs of all attending species. Minjun noticed immediately that the seating was arranged in a circle with no head position. It was a small detail, but an important one. Speaker Veshitala spoke first. Her voice carried the weight of formal ceremony, but also something else. Humility, perhaps, or at least the beginning of it. We gather here to mark a new chapter in galactic history. The Council acknowledges that our treatment of humanity was based on fear rather than wisdom. We saw rapid change and called it dangerous. We saw questions and called them threatening. We were wrong. She paused, and Min Jun saw genuine emotion in her expression. The Kallian people owe humanity a debt that can never be fully repaid. You saved millions of our lives when you had every reason to let us suffer. That act of compassion has taught us more about your species than 30 years of diplomatic contact ever could. Min Jun stood to respond. He had rehearsed his words many times, but now that the moment had arrived, he found himself speaking from the heart instead. Humanity did not save the Kallian to prove a point or to win a political victory. We did it because watching people suffer when we could help was unbearable to us. That is not a unique human trait. I believe every species in this room shares that basic compassion. The difference is that we were forced by isolation to remember it, to place it above politics and pride. He looked around the circle, meeting eyes, sensors, and other forms of perception. 5 years ago, the Council told us we were not ready to be part of galactic civilization. You were right, but not in the way you thought. We were not ready because we were trying too hard to fit into your systems, to follow your rules, to become what you wanted us to be. The ban forced us to find our own way. And in doing so, we discovered something important. The galaxy does not need one way of doing things. It needs many ways. Ambassador Kalira of the Varani stood next, her small stature not diminishing the power of her words. The compact was born from rejection, but it grew through acceptance. Every species here has felt dismissed, controlled, or underestimated by the old power structures. Together, we have built something based on mutual respect rather than hierarchy. Zixith, the Tokai minister, added his perspective. The Council served the galaxy well for thousands of years. We do not seek to destroy what you built, but civilization must evolve. The compact represents that evolution. We can coexist. We can even cooperate, but we will not submit. The discussions continued for 3 days. There were disagreements, moments of tension, old grievances that surfaced and had to be addressed. But there was also progress. On the second day, a formal agreement was reached. The Council and the Compact would exist as separate but equal organizations. Species could choose to belong to one, both, or neither. Trade would flow freely between both systems. Disputes would be resolved through neutral arbitration rather than force. It was not perfect unity, but it was functional coexistence. For now, that was enough. On the final day, something unexpected happened. A young Kallian diplomat named Tresh-An requested permission to speak. She was not part of the senior leadership, but Speaker Veshtala granted her request. Tresh-An stood nervously before the assembly. I was a medical student when the plague hit. I watched my professors try everything, every advanced technique, every sophisticated approach. Nothing worked. Then we received the human protocols, and they seemed too simple, too basic. We almost dismissed them. She looked directly at Dr. Choi. But the simple approach worked. It worked because it addressed the fundamentals that we had forgotten in our pursuit of advancement. I have spent the last month studying human medical techniques, and I am amazed by how much we have lost sight of in our sophistication. She turned to address the entire assembly. I think that is the lesson here. The council became so focused on maintaining order and control that we forgot why we came together in the first place. We forgot that cooperation works best when everyone has a voice, not when one group makes all the decisions. Speaker Veshtala looked at her young colleague with something like pride. Your generation will build the future, Treshan. What you have learned, we should all remember. As the summit concluded, Minjun found himself in an unexpected private conversation with Speaker Veshtala. They stood together looking out at the stars through the observation port. I owe you a personal apology, Veshtala said quietly. 5 years ago, I presided over your exile with certainty that we were doing the right thing. I was arrogant. I thought age and experience made us wiser than younger species, but wisdom is not the same as age. Minjun considered his response carefully. I was angry for a long time. I thought the ban was the worst thing that could happen to humanity. But now I wonder if it was the best thing. We were so eager to be accepted that we were losing ourselves trying to fit in. The ban forced us to stand on our own, to find our own strength. A diplomatic way of saying that we did you a favor by exiling you, Veshtala said with dry humor. Minjun smiled. Not exactly. You caused real suffering. People died because they could not access medical supplies. Colonies struggled. Families were separated. That pain was real, and I do not forget it. But from that pain, we grew stronger. We learned who we really are. And who are you? Veshtala asked. What did you learn about humanity? Minjun thought about the question. He thought about the desperate early years, the innovation born from necessity, the decision to help the Varani despite the risk, the medical teams who worked to save Kallian lives without hesitation. We learned that we are at our best when we are challenged. We learned that we value freedom more than safety. We learned that we would rather build something new than conform to something old. And most importantly, we learned that being human means choosing compassion even when it would be easier to choose revenge. Veshtala was quiet for a long moment. The council feared that humanity would conquer the galaxy. We saw your expansion, your ambition, your military capabilities, and we assumed you would become a threat. And now? Minjun asked. Now I think we feared the wrong thing. You are not conquering the galaxy. You are changing it. You are showing other species that there are alternatives to the way things have always been done. That is more dangerous to the Council's power than any military could be. She looked at him directly. But it is the kind of danger the galaxy needs. We became stagnant in our certainty. The Compact, led by humans but including so many others, is breaking that stagnation. I find that I am grateful, even though it diminishes my own people's influence. The summit ended with a formal ceremony. Representatives from both Council and Compact signed the Unity Accords, establishing the framework for their coexistence. Minjun stood with his team as the documents were finalized. Dr. Choi leaned close and whispered, "We did it. We changed everything." "We started the change," Minjun corrected. "This is just the beginning." Captain Sung-Ho Kim asked the question they were all thinking. What happens next? Now that we have peace, what do we do? Minjun looked around the chamber at the dozens of species, at the council members who had once banned humanity, and the compact members who had joined them in exile, all working together to build something new. Now we prove that the compact way works. We show that cooperation beats control, that diversity beats conformity, that freedom beats security. We build a civilization that makes the ban look like the best thing that ever happened to us. As they prepared to leave Unity Point, Minjun received a message from Earth. It was from a group of young people who had been children when the ban was issued. They had grown up in isolated human space, had never experienced the galaxy before the compact. Their message was simple. Thank you for not giving up. Thank you for showing us that being rejected does not mean being defeated. We are proud to be human. Minjun felt emotion tighten his throat. That was what it had all been for. Not revenge, not political victory, not even justice. It was for the next generation, to give them a galaxy where they could be themselves without apology. He looked at Earth in the distance, at the human colonies scattered across nearby systems, at the compact ships from a dozen species traveling together in peace. 5 years ago, the Council had banned humanity, thinking they were removing a problem. Instead, they had created something they never anticipated. They had forced humanity to discover its own strength. They had pushed them to build alliances based on genuine partnership rather than political convenience. They had intended to isolate humanity, but had instead isolated themselves from the change the galaxy needed. The ban had been meant as punishment. It had become liberation. And now, as the resilience carried Minjun and his team back toward Earth, he allowed himself to feel something he had not felt in 5 years. Not triumph, not vindication, but something simpler and more profound. Hope. The galaxy had a long way to go. There would be challenges ahead, disagreements between Council and Compact, species that resisted change, conflicts that would need resolution. But for the first time since the ban, Minjun believed that the future was not something to fear. Director Park? Dr. Choi interrupted his thoughts. What are you thinking about? Minjun smiled. I am thinking that they tried to break us by casting us out. Instead, they gave us the freedom to become something better. I am thinking that history will look back at the ban not as humanity's darkest moment, but as our beginning. The beginning of what? Captain Sung-Ho Kim asked. Minjun looked out at the stars, at the vast galaxy full of potential and possibility. The beginning of everything! The resilience carried them home, but home was different now. It was not just Earth, not just human colonies. Home was the compact, the alliance of species who had chosen to stand together. Home was the promise that no one would face exile alone again. The galaxy had tried to ban humanity. Instead, humanity had transformed the galaxy. And that, Minjun thought, was the most human thing of all.